Welcome to The Old World Lives, a Warhammer Fantasy Battles podcast. You can find us on Facebook at The Old World Lives, on Instagram at The Old World Lives, and you can reach us by email at theoldworldlives@gmail.com. And now, on to the episode. Hello and welcome to, finally, this fifth episode of The Old World Lives podcast, a Warhammer Fantasy Battles podcast. I'm Christopher, and with me tonight I have Niklas.
Hello.
And Jimmy.
Hello, everyone.
And tonight we are going to talk a bit about 6th edition and go through the basic phases. I think most of us are familiar with them, but for those who are not, this is a good chance to just get a grip of the basics. And we will also go through some experiences so far, because Niklas have been playing some games. And
grand total of 2.
Oh, that's good. That's 2 more than most of us recently, I reckon. But we're gonna have a bit of that in this episode as well. But let's start off with some hobby progress. And Niklas, what have you been up to?
I have built my entire Kislev army now. It's all assembled and ready for painting. I posted a picture on our Instagram, so people can go and check that out. It's just called The Old World Lives. So it's like my entire 1500 point army. Some of it's painted, some is half painted, some primed, but like that's it. That's gonna be my entire army, except for the Ice Queen, which I will assemble and paint her at a later time, because I'm just focusing on building my 1500 points first.
She will be your basically rounding off up to 2,000 points, right?
Yeah, exactly. So like the army is 1500 points, and then she's 495 points. And she is a Lord slot, so I can only use her for at least 2,000 points as well. So it's going to be a nice finishing point.
And it really rounds off a Kislev army as well, having the queen of them all.
Yeah. Also the only magician.
Yeah, that's true. They don't have any wizards at all, do they?
Nope. They they barely have anything. They have one hero choice, and that's it.
Yeah, but it was probably designed to be an allied army, but we've been talking about that previously, and it's one hell of an army when it's standalone, though.
Yeah, I think it's gonna look really cool with all these horsemen, and I hope that it's gonna be fun to play in 6th edition. I think in like 8th edition it will be lacking too much from what everyone else has, but in 6th edition I think it's gonna stand quite all right by itself.
I bet, because we've been seeing some of what you've been doing so far, and the hobby progress will just kick off again now that you're home, right?
Yeah. I've been away for holidays for a bit. Just getting inspiration in Poland, drinking some vodka to get the creativity flowing for the Kislev army. But now I'm back, and yeah, I'm so excited about painting them again. I'm gonna finish off one of the horse archer units that is almost finished, and then I think I'm gonna start painting my Kossars, the infantry unit, because their models are just amazing. I can't say like too many times. They're just so good.
Yeah, that's true. They are almost designed to be like a skirmish unit when everything is an individual, but they're not.
Yeah. I think they are supposed to be like a regimented unit, but they really look like they would just like walk around in forests and shoot arrows and shit. But yeah, I think they're gonna look pretty cool when they stand next to each other as well.
Yeah, they do. They really do. So, Jimmy, have you been doing anything, or have you just been recovering from plague?
I've been recovering from plague, and I did start painting on some night goblins before I went on to restore quite a lot of my Skaven models so I could play a game of Warhammer Fantasy, which everyone
Oh.
can see on our Facebook page, where I put up some pictures from the battle.
Yeah, and our Instagram.
Yes, and on our Instagram. And so yeah, that's been my hobby progress, so to speak. But yeah, and everyone can see the mishappenings of Gnak von Finkelstein's forces facing off against the Empire, led by Frolon Glickish, who is a warrior priest. And god damn, I hate knights with their fucking full plate armor. God damn. It's I really hate that. I hate one up saves in 6th edition. I love to field units with one up save, but goddamn, facing them.
6th edition in particular.
Yeah, God.
Oh, so what, when you play 8th edition, then
when I play
there's
8th,
no problem?
well, no, there's always big, scary, dangerous things to use against them. And if I play Skaven, I can always use the dreaded 13 spell on them. So
Don't you
yeah.
have any of those, what do you call it, just sales? The rifle guys?
I have Giselles. They're quite good at taking out cavalry, but when we played this game, we were using the Border Princess campaign rules from the 6th edition rulebook, and I had no territories that give me skirmish units, and Giselles are supposedly skirmishers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Didn't know that.
they are. So 360 shoot out. Yeah.
So it was good for theme, but not so good
Yeah.
for actually gaming.
Yeah. Yeah. But in the end, it was a draw, and it all went down on one roll. And I fucking love when games turn out on that last single die.
Yeah.
That was the one you forgot to roll during the game, right?
Yes. And on our way to get some dinner, I kind of like, whoa, I forgot to roll the dice for my Warpstone Talisman. On a 1, I die. And it took about 2.5 hours before I could roll the die. So it was kind of scary for me to just sit there and wait and like, can't we use a digital die on the phone? No, you gotta wait until you're home, and I'm gonna be there to witness it.
That's a good thing because
Yeah,
a program die doesn't work in the same way. It just
Yeah.
statistics. So
yeah, exactly. So
So-
it was kind of sweaty.
So what kind of mission do you play? Just like a line battle and just score victory points and kill and stuff?
The battle was a pitch battle, so yeah, victory points just kill things. We used the mission list in the 6th edition rulebook. I was kind of like bummed by the whole pitched battle scenario. I wanted something more, but we let the dice rolls decide for us.
It feels like most of the times when I used to play fantasy, maybe we'll go into this later and how to play 6th edition, but pitch battle seems like the most common battle. Like it was totally fine to say, oh, let's just play pitch battle because that's the standard battle.
Yeah.
And it seems to work pretty well though. It seems to be like a balanced game.
Yeah.
But that's mainly because all of these games basically have one scenario that is the basic, most easiest one to just remember that no one will argue rules over. So it's because we have this same, because all of us are playing 30k as well. So
Yeah.
it's basically the same in that game, which yeah. So
yeah, but then you have like 6 different games that have like different main objectives, and sometimes you have objectives and sometimes you have that and sometimes you have kill points. But in 6th edition fantasy, it seems like you can have like a balanced game with any army just playing the basic mission.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that makes fantasy so fun to play.
True.
Yeah. Like from all the times that I used to play fantasy, I think we always used to play that, and I never seemed like, can we play another mission? Because this is getting boring. Because it was like you always play a new army, and it's never, even though it's the same mission, it's never the same thing.
Exactly. it's always a different deployment. So well, not different deployment zones, but different kind of deploying the army. It one game you might have your heavy cavalry in the center. Sometimes you have it on the right flank, left flank, or you deploy in a refused flank. There are so many possibilities to play this one kind of scenario.
Yeah, definitely. Because like deployment is so important in fantasy because you can't just move things anywhere. So it's kind of set where you have your units. Like if you put something on your right flank, then it's most probably just going to play the game on the right flank or in the middle.
Yeah.
It's like American football.
Yeah.
Like
Except fun.
Yes. Except like 300 Kentucky Fried Chicken commercials.
And the fact that you shouldn't really touch the ball with your hands in football.
All right. We're going to have to make an episode about this as well.
Yeah. It's going to be football versus American football versus Australian football. No, wait, we're a Warhammer podcast. So, Jimmy, how about those witch hunters you've been posting recently on Instagram?
Yeah, well, I'm halfway through with my Witch Hunter Warband. Nearly all my henchmen are now painted. I'm halfway through with the dogs, so I'll be posting them sometime soon. And I expect them to be finished within 2 weeks, actually.
Nice. So you did manage to get some work done while being, well, I'm trying to find a nice way to say plague, but not saying plague again.
Captured by the Great Horned Rat's plague sensor.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're really looking great, those that warband. And
Thank you.
Will be fun to face them sometime, I think.
Oh, they will hunt you down, and they will burn you and call you a witch. Even if you're a rat.
They can try.
I hear that bandages burn quite well.
Have you done anything else? Like you're a hobby machine and you can always post pictures both on Instagram and to us.
Well, I have been sculpting some fish.
Oh yeah. I saw that.
Well, I haven't been so much.
Mordheim is full of fish.
Yeah. Yes, the fish represents the soul of all the inhabitants.
So some say.
Yeah. Well, haven't been much progress other than this. Well, since
what you've done so far.
Yeah. Well, the whole playing Skaven once again did start my Clan Scryer love a tiny bit. So I opened up my sealed package of a warp lightning cannon. So I'm going to build this and field it sometime once it's painted. Since every time I field my single warp lightning cannon, it runs off the battlefield. It always panics because there's like, oh no, there's a fleeing group of rat ogres here. Oh god, we're gonna run.
Which warp lightning cannon did you get? The new one or the old one? Or the
old one. So the old one. So I'm gonna use 2 of the old ones.
They're really nice looking.
Yeah, I love that mini.
They even though the new kit, that's the dual kit with the play claw, looks good, the old one looks a lot better.
Oh yeah, and
it's also classic.
Yeah, it is, and it also have that like long, what should I say, binocular thingy. The all-seeing eye of the warp lightning cannon that makes you able to see through terrain, so it can shoot through anything that is not solid rock.
Well, it does basically fire a bolt of warp lightning.
Yeah.
So it
probably causes instant brain tumor in anyone who uses it.
Yeah.
Probably.
But they're rats. They're used experiments.
Yeah.
So basically,
and there's always a new rat to take the other one's place.
Yep.
Yeah. So shitload of progress. I mean, you're keeping it going.
Yeah, you really should have gone last. Now my progress will seem pitiful.
So what have you done, Christopher?
I've mostly painted one rat.
And that's a hell of a rat.
Still needs some blending on the cloth. I haven't really gotten to that point yet. But this is the little rat on the barrel that's been previewed on our Instagram. And he is the rat familiar for my, well, Clown Pestilence Mordheim Warband, because curse you, Jimmy.
Man, Christopher, you're such a hobby butterfly.
I started painting Dark Elves, and then I realized I haven't really hobbied for 4 months, and I needed something to practice my painting skills again, and I chose the Warband. That's basically it.
I still hold the dream of a fully painted Slayer cult army in my heart.
It's right there within his grasp. Still so
It,
far
uh,
away.
it might be done at the same time as a certain Chaos Dwarf army. So we'll see what happens.
All right, that's a challenge.
Ooh, you heard it here, folks.
Yep.
You heard it here first.
And a good thing with my Dark Elves is that they are mostly painted for. They just have to add like 2 Reaper Bolt Throwers to them and some Corsairs, and it's a fully fledged army again. So I feel like better take the time getting the skills back and then try to do a proper job with the new stuff. Problem with that is I will do a lot better because it's been like 15 years since I painted a Dark Elf before, and
Yeah.
all of those, the old ones will just look just edging closer and closer to get the paint stripper.
Yeah, that's the worst. Like when you have old painted stuff.
Yeah.
I had that for my like dwarf army that I had way back. This is like my first army, so some units were just total dog shit, and then you had some nice looking ones, and then some like recent ones that you were actually happy with, and then like every time you were gonna use it, you're just like, oh fuck, oh, I need to repaint these, and these like endless, like you just feel bad over it.
Yeah, I get how you feel.
Yeah, and then you see the guy that you painted that you once was really proud of, and now you're picking up, look at him, and realizes that his eyes, the white of his eyes, is basically as big as the entire eye socket. And there's a dot the size of the eye in the middle. And you were really, really proud of that one.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, it's a really, really proud moment.
I kind of feel the same about Muscaven. When I do start painting new things for them, I know I'm eventually going to paint strip everything piece by piece and paint up new ones. And
well, I gotta say, your
yeah.
Skaven still look like they're still like good tabletop.
Yeah.
And they're fucking rats. There's so many of them. You're not even gonna notice it. You can paint like
I'm gonna paint a grittier kind of paint scheme on them.
Just put a load of weathering on top of them, so you don't really need to repaint them. You just get them grittier.
Yeah.
I've been playing a lot with rust.
Yeah, because you could just update the model itself. You don't really have to strip it if it's just the gritty feeling you want.
True. I'm gonna try it out.
You did see the blade I did for Little Rat, right?
Yeah.
You could go, if you want rust, to go that way and just get the proper rusting effects, whatever you call them.
I'm gonna give it a try.
All right. Is that our hobby progress?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. I was going to mention that we did have a game day planned this past weekend, but basically life got in the way, and for many reasons it just didn't take place. But we're going to try to get another day sooner rather than later.
Hey, 33% of the guys who were gonna play did play.
Yeah,
that's a win in my book.
You guys are driving me insane, like with not deciding where to play until like the week before.
And then
I've been trying to get people up here for so long.
Yeah, but you're so polite. All of you are too polite.
I know.
Tell people like
Fuck.
this is what's gonna happen.
Yeah, but we're gonna plan something new, hopefully for next month, because there are some events in between now and then.
Yeah.
That you're not attending, Scandis, are you, Niklas?
No, I don't think so.
You will show up to BSK?
Yes, I will.
Then it's fair enough not to go.
Maybe I'll bring some fantasy.
Yeah, I could definitely play like the day before or something.
Nice.
Just play it in front of your co-host.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this nice little pikeman. Do you want a pikeman?
So for everyone who's wondering what the hell we're talking about, all of us also play 30K if you did not know this. And these guys are attending an event in Stockholm, which I'm not going to. Then I'm going to attend another event in Borås. In Sweden.
Yeah, and that the event in Borås is a proper convention, so there's more than one game system played.
Yeah.
And that is like the 5th of November, something around there.
Yeah, sometime early November.
So enough about that. We had promised to talk a bit about Warhammer 6th edition and how to, and it's gonna be a basic one because we might do a more focused effort on each of the phases later on, but we want to give a little bit of, well, a bit of how to, so to speak, just how the different phases work, the movement, shooting, and all of that. We're also going to go through where to find the erratas and FAQs for the rulebook and the army books. So
yeah, I just want to say, like, you've probably heard our previous episode where me and Krell went over the differences between 6th and 8th edition, which, like, now in hindsight, maybe we should have put that after we actually went through more how to actually play 6th edition. But I just want to say also, I've been thinking about, because 6th and 8th edition seems to be like the most played versions of the game, and I've just been thinking like of the difference between those. And since we play 30K, and I think actually a lot of our listeners also play 30K, because I see like on our Instagram as well, like people post both fantasy and 30K stuff. So you're probably familiar with the Centurion like house rules that the Eye of Horse podcast made. And it's gonna say like 6th edition fantasy is kind of like the Centurion mode of fantasy compared to 8th edition. This is like a bit smaller, not such big crazy units or crazy monsters, but more like small scaled and small tactics based.
Yep. And we are also going to go through 8th edition at a later date because we're all interested, at least those of us that haven't played it yet, to check it out. And tonight is just not that night. So
it's coming. I promise.
Let's just move on to Warhammer 6th edition basic how to. And let's start off with movement phase, perhaps.
It's a good way to start.
Yeah, and just one more thing. If you got the reference sheets for Warhammer 6th edition, where you can look at them because we are going to follow them while we talk about this, just for ease of reference.
Maybe should we start with deployment? Quickly, how you deploy. You roll up the mission and then you place one unit at a time, right? Then you have to place all your war machines at the same time. Like if you had like 6 infantry units and 3 cannons, then you can place 1 infantry unit at a time, but then you have to place, when you say I want to place a cannon, then you have to place all 3 cannons at the same time, but anywhere you want in your deployment zone. And then after you deployed all your units, you deploy your characters. And that's about it, right?
Yeah, and not to forget about scouts. If a unit have the scout rule, they can put up anywhere on the battlefield after both sides have deployed, outside 10 inches from the enemy and outside line of sight.
And this is not counting certain magic items that do exist in the game. Just want to mention that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, after you're deployed, you start the battle. You start moving.
Yes, and in the movement phase, it's you have 5 things to do. Step 1 is declare your charges, where you indicate units, or you nominate units who will charge other enemy units. And to charge a unit, you move them twice their distance, but you don't move them just yet. Before you can move
Twice
a charger,
their move distance.
yeah,
and movement value.
Yeah, and before you can move a charger, the enemy gets to do a charge response. which is stand and shoot. So if they have a shooting weapon, a bow or a sling or whatever, they get to fire this said weapon with a -1 to hit. And this is if the enemy unit charging is outside their base movement, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
that's
if you
correct.
have like a cavalry unit has move 8, and you want to charge a shooting unit, and you're standing at 12 inches away, so your charge distance is twice your movement, so it's 16. But you're outside of your basic move, which is 8, so the enemy unit gets to fire.
Yeah.
But if you were standing like 7 inches away from the shooting unit, then they won't get to fire.
Exactly. And if you don't stand and shoot, you can shoot the reaction hold, where you just stand and take the charge.
Yeah, which is like the basic response, what you will do if you don't have a shooting weapon.
Yeah. And if you don't think you will survive the charge, you can choose the reaction flee, and you move 2d6 directly away from the enemy.
Or 3 if you're cavalry. Or yeah.
It doesn't have to be cavalry if you're
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
move into that in like
Yeah.
a minute or so. If your move is about above 6, I think 6 or more.
Yeah.
Let's go into that later. So, are those the 3 charge responses you can make?
These are the 3 responses you can make. And after you have chosen your responses, you rally fleeing troops if you have any. And you do not rally troops who just fled from a charger. And should we go into this? Yes. If a unit have at least 25% of its original number of models surviving, it can rally. Otherwise, it will keep fleeing. So if you have a unit of 20 guys and you have 5 or more left, you're able to rally your fleeing troops. If you have 4 models or less, you cannot.
So they're just gonna keep fleeing. And
It's of the original number of the starting unit.
is there anything like insane courage?
Nope, there is not.
All
So
right.
if you're below 25% and you flee, you will flee.
Yeah, because in other Warhammer games, both like other editions of Fantasy, I guess, and 30k and 40k, like if you, this is kind of the same rule, but if you roll a double 1, then you automatically rally.
Yeah, there are ways to make models who are below 25% to regroup in one way or another, but that's like most often spells, or if you're within a certain radius to get the no, it's not the fearless, unbreakable special rule or something similar. But yeah, that's about it.
All right. So after you're rallying fleeing troops, I think it's the compulsory moves, right?
Yeah, that's right. And this is when you move fleeing troops or units who are obliged to move against their will, like a unit who lost their stupidity test, or if you're bound by some kind of spell that makes you who makes a forced move or something.
Is like the Scave and Doom Wheel, is that a compulsory move?
It is.
Yeah. So stuff like that. And then
Yeah.
after this, you have like your regular moves, all right?
No, then you move chargers. There might,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, as compulsory moves may, well, units who do a compulsory move may come in the way for a charging unit, and this will cancel the charge. It's like if a loose squig jumps in front of my night goblins who just declared a charge, my night goblins will not be able to charge because they will move into the squig and stop there.
All right.
Goddamn squigs, I hate them.
And that's why you're theming an entire army around them, right?
Oh yes, I'm gonna use so many squigs. Will be everywhere, literally everywhere. Anyhow, after you move your chargers, if you fail your charge, you will move your base movement against the unit you did declare a charge against.
Yeah, and if the unit you were trying to charge is not there anymore, maybe from a flee reaction, then you may redirect your charge against a unit that you could previously not attack.
Indeed.
Yeah, then you just move into base contact with the enemy that you're charging. And then we have the regular moves, right?
Yes, that's right. And this is where the fun comes in.
So,
yeah, to me, movement is the most it's one of the most difficult phases and the most important phases in the game. It's all about positioning. And to use this, you can use things like you can reform your unit and make it wider, deeper, or whatever. You just reform the unit, and you can change formation. This is kind of the same thing. You can increase or decrease your ranks. You can turn your unit 90 to 180 degrees by surrendering a quarter of your move. And you can wheel. This is one of the fun things in the game. Niklas, do you want to talk about wheeling?
yeah, so you wheel is when you you turn while you're also moving forward, and it's most often used when if you want to march, which is just moving your double distance, you're going to be wheeling. So that's you move forward, and then you say you want to turn right. So then you kind of imaginarily press down on the front right corner, so that point is stationary, and then you turn the left corner forward. You're swinging that up to the right, and then you're measuring the distance from corner to corner, from left corner to where it stops, and that's a wheel.
Yeah. We might be making some diagrams to show later on, I think.
Yeah, or if you have the 6th edition rulebook, it's on page 48.
Nice.
If people want us to make diagrams, you could just write in and tell us so, because we could possibly do them actually like with in-game photos, couldn't we? Something nice.
Yeah, and then after wheeling, you have turning, as Jimmy said, and that's when you're stationary and you turn, and you may turn up to 90 degrees for a quarter of your move, right?
Yeah.
So if you have move 8 and you want to turn, if you're standing facing forward and you want to turn straight to the right, then that's going to cost you 2 inches of movement, and then you may move forward 6 inches.
Yeah.
So the thing is, you can't do this if you're marching, because marching you're just going straight forward. You can wheel, because that you're also moving forward when you're wheeling. But if you want to turn on the spot, then you cannot march. And change formation, you can add or deduct ranks, like half of its movement to add or deduct a rank. Can you also turn with this, or is turn like a?
I think you can turn with it as well, as turning takes up a quarter of your move and change formation takes up half of your move, so you at least have 1/4 left.
Should also note that it is important that your leaders, standard bearers, and musicians go in the front rank, for the new front rank of the unit after you've turned it or changed
They are
formation.
always in the front rank.
Yeah. So that's adding or deducting ranks, and then you have the last move order, so to speak, which is reform, where you spend all of your movement, but you get to turn in any direction and deduct or add as many ranks as you want. So if you're facing forward with five men in 4 ranks, and then you can decide to look backwards with 20 guys in 1 row if you want. But guys can only move as far as their own move as well, right? So you can't.
That's correct.
You can't move 20 inches because of a reform. You still have to be able to walk there. Using twice your movement, actually, because they can march over there.
And this also makes you unable to use missile weapons, but wizards are still free to cast spells.
Yeah, and light cav may also shoot, because you can reform as much as they want.
Always cheating.
Okay, anything more with movement?
I don't think so.
Just gotta mention it. You can get slowed down by terrain. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. And often you have to move around terrain and such things, but that's all part of the game, so to say.
Yeah.
And always take care of planning your movement phase as best as you can. It's not often that the battlefield actually lets you plan out your movement too far, but try to take a moment just to look over the situation and see where your troops actually need to be rather than where you feel them to be.
Yeah, as Jimmy said, like movement, and what people can tell me about fantasy all this time, like movement is the most important phase of the game, because that just decides everything. And like if you move something forward now, like you need to think like, what are they going to do in 2 or 3 turns? Maybe put them in a position so that they can charge someone who move forward. Because they can't just go back where they came from. They can't move backwards. They have to spend a lot of their movement to turn, to reform and shit. So it's very important where you place your units. Okay, are we done with movement?
Yeah.
So the magic phase starts with generating power in the spell dice.
Yeah. Yeah. And you do that by looking at the levels of your wizards. Every army have a basic number of 2 dice for both dispel and power dice.
Wrong.
True. Dwarves have more.
But they don't have wizards, so your
Yeah.
point still stands.
It's true. I just want to say dwarves have 2 more dispel dice, but they have no more power dice because you can't use power dice. So you were saying?
Yeah. So for each level of your wizards, you get 1 power dice, and you use these dice to cast your spells. Like I was
when
saying,
you're on, when you're on the receiving side, when you're generating dispel dice, then you get a bit less. So you get 1 dice if you have a level 1 or 2, like the 1 to 2, and 2 dice if you have a level 3 or 4. So it's kind of halved in your dispel pool.
Yeah. This is because you're actually supposed to be able to cast your spells. If both sides got the equal amount, it wouldn't have been so much fun.
You can also mention that all of these, both power and dispel dice, are the basic, because you can always add magic items and different things just to get more.
Things like Marks of Chaos gives you more power, or dispel dice. Yeah.
But these are the basics that everyone gets. So
Yeah.
Or you're playing high elves and then you steal 1 dice from your enemy, and then you also get 2 more dice because reasons and rules, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Things that make you even more pissed off as a dwarf.
And like we were saying, use power dice to cast spells, and you use dispel dice to obviously dispel those spells. And to cast a spell, you take a number of dice, and depending on your level of your wizard, you can have 1 more dice than your level. So if you're level 1 wizard, you can use 2 dice. If you're level 2, you can use 3, etc., etc. And there's maximum level of 4 for wizards. So for level 4 wizard can use 5 dice. Unless you're a dark elf, I think they can use more power dice than their level
they
allows.
get bonuses on their rolls.
Okay, they get bonus.
And they also have magic items that makes you able to use as many dice as you want.
Okay.
But you still miscast with that power.
Yeah.
So.
And And when you cast your spells, you roll a number of dice, and you're supposed to come up to a total of whatever the spell's casting value is. So if your casting value is 7, you need 7 or more on your dice. So you take as many dice as you think you need to use, and you roll them, and try to roll 7 or more. If you roll 2 6s, you have an irresistible force, which means the spell is successfully cast, and the enemy can't dispel it. But if you roll a double 1, the spell has been a miscast, and you roll on a specific miscast table where things can go bananas, so to speak.
I just want to say that there are kind of few of those like charts in this book,
Yeah.
like random charts where stuff just goes terribly wrong. But then again, it's full of them in Skaven and
Oh
Orcs
yes. Oh
books.
yes.
And there's one in the Chaos book as well, isn't it? That basically turns you into a spawn or something.
Yeah, I think so. I
The
need to
best-
check this one.
Yeah.
I need to check this one up.
Yeah. And just this, there's also a combination of those, because if 2 or more 6s and 2 or more 1s are rolled, the spell fails and the wizard must roll 2d6 on the miscast table.
Yeah.
Basically, irresistible force and then fail.
Irresistibly
So
fail.
a double 1 is always a fail. So to
Yeah. And in that case, the double 6 makes it even more powerful, and then it fails.
Yeah.
So let's say I roll 3 dice and I need 8 or more to successfully cast the spells, and I roll a 9, so it's successful. How do
Yes.
I then dispel this as an enemy?
You use your dispel dice to roll equal or more than the caster rolled on his to cast roll. So I would need at
I rolled-
least. So if I roll, I decide that I don't want you to use dispel at all, and I say I have 5 dispel dice. I may use 4 of them or all 5 because I really don't want you to success. So I need on all my dice, I need to roll 9 or more.
Yeah. Then you get +2 if you're a dwarf.
Yeah, or if you're using certain magic items.
Yeah. He's drawing a lot of dwarf references because, like when I used to play this system, I played dwarfs, and I just loved ruining people's day in their magic phase. Like, oh, you're never let me use any spells. Like, I know.
Just face my Skaven. I will roll 13 every time. A double 6 is not an irresistible force for them. You need to roll 13.
And then you just happens upon the banners and stuff that just almost grants them immunity to magic.
Oh no.
I was gonna say that you have magic resistance in this game as well. Some items
Yes,
give that.
and magic resistance gives you bonus dice to dispel a spell.
For like you can have magic resistance, and if you have magic resistance for a unit, you can only have it for units. I think like if you
You only have-
target a unit that
yeah.
has magic resistance too.
Yeah, then
Yeah.
that unit gets +2 extra dice on dispelling the spell.
That's also true for certain magic items that just grants the one carrying the magic item magic immunity or magic resistance.
Yeah. I just kind of wanted to sneak that in there because it's
Yeah.
very, very different from other editions.
Yeah, because in later editions you get a save instead.
So, what happens if a spell remains in play? Can you dispel it?
Niklas, will you take this one or should I?
Yes, you can. You can use your own power dice for this, right? Let's go when it's your turn. You may use your power dice that you would usually use to cast a spell to dispel another spell. And then you don't have to roll above what the other person rolled before. You just have to roll the basic casting value of that spell. So if the value of that spell is 6+, but the guy rolled a 12 or something, then you can still dispel this on 6+.
And you can also dispel spells cast with irresistible force in this way.
Yeah.
I think also
And
there are some bound spells.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. There are magic items that gives you bound spells, and bound spells have a, let's say, an automatic success. But regarding of the level of the bound spell, the bound spell level counts as the spell power dice roll, so to say. If my bound spell is power level 3, it counts as I had rolled 3 on my casting value. So if the enemy wanna dispel my bound spell of power level 3, they just need to roll a 3 or more.
Yeah.
And bound spells are nice to use at the beginning of the magic phase or at the end, depending on if you wanna lure out some extra dispel dice from your enemy, or if it's a really good bound spell that you wanna cast automatically at the end. So you use your ordinary spells to lure out the dispel rolls of your enemy.
Well, look at this. Someone who actually knows how to play the game.
Yeah.
It's always fun.
I've been playing Tomb Kings before, so the thing
always
is
fun
kind of
with
important.
That surprise fireball to the face is always a nice thing.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything more to say about the match phase in general? I think we were just talking about having like an advanced magic section in another episode because it's a deep topic.
There's too many. There's a lot of more lores that are in addition to the 8 lores that are in the core rulebook. Yeah. So we figure it would be better to do a proper topic of it because, well, there are only 8 in this book, and we have to go through all of the other books to just get a grasp of all of them and just summarize them.
Yeah.
Should we just mention what lores are in the core book?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Gotta go through this big ass book again. But it's the lore of 1 second. The lore of 1 second. The lore of fire, the lore of metal, the most metal lore, the lore of shadow, the lore of beasts, the lore of the heavens, the lore of light, the lore of life, and the lore of death.
Spooky.
Yeah, and I mean, you can hear mostly what these things do. Lore of death, you kill stuff, and lore of life, you heal stuff. Lore of light, it's like healing and also
holy
light damage.
Yeah.
Like a classic fantasy paladin. Lore of heavens.
Well, it's comets and lightning bolts and stuff like that.
Yeah, and like looking into the future. Lore of beasts, making beasts crazy, making you stronger. Lore of shadow. It's also like it's kind of touching on the lore of death, to say, but it's also about the night.
It's
shadows.
And buffs and debuffs and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's deception.
Lore of metal. What's it called? Isn't there like a science of the metals?
Yeah, it's
alchemy.
Alchemy.
Yeah, so like taking that to the reality and fantasy, making lead into gold.
Yeah, and most importantly, making your enemies' weapons and armor melt.
Yeah, it's fucking harsh. Not nice if you have a 1+ save.
Oh god. I need to get myself a lore of metal guy.
Lore of fire is classic fantasy. Fireballs, fireball. Fire blast. Conflagration of Doom is the best spell name.
Flaming Sword of Ruin.
It's a bit of the opposite of what the Kislevites are going for.
Yes. As we said, different armies have their own unique magic, which is really cool. And the Kislev has, of course, Lore of Ice. Because, I mean, anything else would be stupid.
True.
All right, but I think that's it for magic.
Time to go to shooting.
Yeah. So the real magic phase for dwarves.
This is where it happens, folks.
So generally in shooting, if you have a ranged weapon, then you may use this to shoot. And then the weapon has its stats. It's got range, and it's got strength, and it's got some special rules. Maybe it's got armor piercing, maybe it's got move or fire, maybe it's got
multiple shots.
Yeah. And then maybe there are some special rules for different armies. You know that skinks have poison on their blow darts and stuff like that. That's
Yeah.
more of a general rule. So when you want to shoot, you just measure your range towards the enemy. If they're within range, you may shoot with those guys, and then
to be in range, you also need to be in line of sight. Which,
yes, good point.
Yeah, 90 degrees fire arc from the unit.
Yeah, it's per model as well, right?
So... No, it's I think it's. I'm gonna check this. Yes, it's model in 6th edition. In later editions, it's the unit's arc. So 90 degrees of per model.
Yeah, so if someone's standing to your far left, then maybe only half of your unit may fire.
Yeah, exactly.
And in this edition, only the front rank may fire, unless you're on a hill, in which case the second rank may also fire. So,
yes, and to add, I think in this edition, when you shoot at a large target model, everyone gets to shoot. Don't quote me on it, but I think that's how it was. I have a bad memory of gnobblers using sharp stuff on one of my giants before.
It does make sense. Okay, so you measure if you're in range, and then you start firing. So you check out your ballistic skill. I have a ballistic skill 3, so that means I hit on a 4 usually. But then you have to hit modifiers. So you have minuses and plus. You have a minus if the enemy is outside of half your range. So if you have a bow, which is 24 inches of range, and the enemy is at 18 inches, then you get a +1 to hit because it's harder to hit stuff further away. So you hit on 5s. And then maybe the enemy is behind some bushes, which is a light cover. So also makes it one step harder. So that's 6 to hit. And then maybe he's a large target. So that gives you -1. So it's easier to hit him. So then you're hitting on 5 again. But oh, I moved in the movement phase, which also gives you +1. So you're hitting on 6s again. Now, this seems like very complicated when I took all of them like that, but it's very easy. Usually it's just short range or long range, and did I move or not?
Yeah.
And then you roll all your guys that are firing. Oh, I got 3 hits, and then you just roll to wound, just like close combat.
I want to add one thing. There is this thing 7+ to hit. If you happen to have a very bad ballistic skill and you get these negative modifiers and you need a 7+ to hit, you roll a die as normal, and for every 6 you roll it again. On a 4 up, you hit, and on an 8+, it's a 5 up prior after this 6. And if you need a 9+, it's 6 followed by 6. But 10+ is impossible.
Yeah. So you can still hit even if you're running through a forest shooting at gnobblers behind a wall at long range.
Yeah, you might just be lucky. Very lucky.
And yeah, as we said, there are these special rules: armor piercing 1 or 2. Then you just take that off the enemy armor. Then you have some weapons that are move and fire, like handguns, and you can't move and fire. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Repeating crossbows. If you want to shoot twice, then you also get +1 to hit.
Rather -1 to hit if you, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
It's a negative modifier though.
1 harder.
So yeah.
Yeah, shooting is pretty uncomplicated. Although, in this edition, which is like one of my favorite things about it, in this edition, when you're firing artillery, since this is an edition where you can't pre-measure, you have to kind of guess if you're in range of stuff.
Yeah.
This really affects the artillery, especially cannons and catapults.
Yeah, truly does.
So ballistas and organ guns and hellblasters, they have at least a fixed range and they shoot kind of small projectiles. A stone thrower or catapult, you just turn it to where you wanted to shoot. So if you have like a unit that's far off in the distance, you just turn it to them. And then you need to guess how far away they are. And then you just say, okay, those guys are exactly 31 inches away from me, or that's where I want the stone to land. So then you measure 31 inches in a straight line from your catapult to the unit. And you're like, oh, I have played fantasy for 12 years. I know all the ranges. And you hit right into the unit. But then you still roll a scatter dice and artillery dice to see. Because you might be really good at guessing, but your crew still not the most dependable.
Yeah, you can also be really good at math and use Pythagoras to
Yes,
measure.
this is very true. So if you're a seasoned dwarf player, then you have your cannon, you deployed it exactly 12 inches forward in the middle. So you know that you have 24 inches to either side. So you know exactly where you are on the table and you know exactly how big the table is. And then you see the enemy is forward to you, and then you think like, oh yeah, maybe he's deployed 32 inches from the side and he moves forward 5 inches. And then you just calculate that shit.
Mathematical, dude.
And then someone that doesn't really understand math just accuses you of cheating.
Yeah, I did that
Lesser
once.
races.
Because that has happened. I've seen it. It's just hilarious.
As a seasoned greenskin player, I always called bullshit on my former enemy back in school. He used this every single fucking time, and it was a bull's fucking eye every time with his Empire Morton. I was like, what the fuck? There's dead greenskins everywhere. He's obviously cheating.
Yeah, and when you're firing a cannon, you do the same thing as with a catapult, but then you want to aim in front of the enemy, because you shoot it and then it hits the ground and then it's gonna bounce the distance shown by an artillery dice, and then it's gonna fly forward through the unit, and it's on that bounce that's when it hits the enemy. So if the enemy is in the line before it bounces, then the cannonball is flying over the enemy, and it's like after it bounces, that's when it's flying next to the ground and smashes the enemy.
Yeah, and the golden spot, I remember this from 8th edition, was, as you could pre-measure there, was to place the cannonball 7 inches in front of the unit. And if you're good at guessing, you should also make the cannonball's first bounce start 7 inches in front of the unit.
Isn't it? Didn't usually people say like 10 inches from the back in 8th editions? That's what I heard.
7 inches from the front is what I remember, but 10 inches from the back sounds really good too, so why not?
Tomato, tomato. As long as they're dead greensons.
I might be thinking of the warp lightning cannon now that I'm thinking of it, as the warp lightning cannon bounces like a cannonball, but then blasts off like a rock lobber in the middle of it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Oh well. Anywho, if you take some casualties from shooting, you might get a panic test. And if you take 25% or more models in one phase in casualties, you need to take a panic test, which is a leadership test. If you fail, you run.
Yeah.
And this is taken immediately, not at the end of the phase, like where most of us are used to in other games.
So if you take 25% casualty, then you need to roll that straight away.
Yes.
So what if you take 25% again?
You only take one panic test per phase, I think. As it says here, if a unit takes 25 or more % casualties from a shooting, it must immediately take a panic test.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And this gives you more, should we say, flexibility. If one unit shoots out 25% of one unit and they flee, other shooting units are free to shoot at other targets. So this is really good.
Yeah, or you can, if you shoot at a unit that you want gone, you kind of counting on it to flee.
Yeah.
And then you get 25%, and then, oh, it didn't flee. And you notice straight away, and then you can concentrate more of your shooting units on that unit. So that does make a tactical difference.
Yeah.
Just want to say also that you have to fire your guess range weaponry first in shooting phase.
Yes.
Because then you have to measure it, and then otherwise, you, like if you have a unit of like a bolt thrower next to your cannon, and then you measure the range with the bolt thrower, and then you just know the range instantly for the cannon. So you can't use like a bolt thrower as a laser guider for your cannon.
But if you have two cannons, you can make a really guess with your first cannon and know the range with the other one.
Yeah.
I have seen this too. It was horrible. A cannon besides a mortar, and this made the mortar make a bullseye on a unit.
Mm-hmm.
So, the shooting, right?
Yeah. Next phase is close combat, where the damage is dealt.
Yeah. If you're not a dwarf or gnome empire guy.
They fight too. I've seen it.
On rare occasions, they bring out their axes and swords.
Indeed.
Okay, so after you've moved in your chargers, but also if you have remaining combats, maybe the combat didn't resolve totally, and they're still locked in combat, then you start fighting. So the person whose turn it is decides which combat to start with, right?
Yeah, that's right. And you also solve one combat at a time.
Yeah. So let's say you pick a combat where you charged, then you count all the models from the front rank, or also the second rank if you have spears, I think. This edition.
Spears can't fight in 2 ranks if they charge, sadly.
Okay. So let's say you charge with spearmen, and you have 5 guys in each rank, in like 3 ranks. Then the front rank gets to strike first because you charged. And if you have a champion that's 2 attacks, then you of course get 6 attacks in total. And then you roll to hit, comparing your weapon skill to the enemy's weapon skill. So if I have weapon skill 4, you have weapon skill 3, then I need to roll 3+ on these 6 dice. And I hit with 4. I take these 4 dice, and then I roll comparing my strength to your toughness. I have strength 3 because I am a weak elf. You have a mighty toughness of 4 because you're a mighty dwarf.
Or an orc.
Yeah. And then I need to roll 5 or more on these dice. So I successfully wound with 2 of them. And then you roll your armor save, which is 1+ for some weird reason.
Because I'm a knight.
Yeah. So since I'm strength 3, you won't get any negative modifiers. You do get negative modifiers to your armor. If you have strength 4, you get -1. Strength 5, you get -2. Strength 6, -3, and so on. So the harder you strike, the more likely you are you're gonna pierce the enemy's armor, which makes sense. Since you have a 1+ save, you don't automatically succeed. You still need to roll a 2 or more because a 1 is always a failure. So you roll your 2 dice, and you you make both of them. And then, or let's say you fail one of them actually, just to make this make sense of this segment. So let's say you have 5 guys in your front rank. You lost one of them, which means that one of them won't get the strike because they don't step up in this edition. So you get to strike back with 4 guys. One of them is a champion though, so he's got 2 attacks, so you still get 5 attacks. So then you roll your weapon skill, you get weapon skill 3 against the enemy's weapon skill 4. You still hit on 4-ups because it's easier to hit enemies that have higher weapon skill than you.
Yeah, you get a worse to hit roll if the enemy's weapon skill is more than double yours.
Yeah.
So you need weapon skill
Yeah,
7
then you'll
for
hit on
me to,
5s.
yeah.
And then you compare your strength to their toughness. You have a great weapon on your strength 3, and a great weapon increases your strength by 2. So you are now strength 5. So let's say you hit with 3 attacks, and then you have strength 5 against the enemy's toughness 3, which means you wound on 2 up. So you roll your 3 dice, and you wound with 2 of them. The enemy has got light armor and shield, which gives them a 5+ save. But since you're strength 5, you get -2 on that save, so they don't get a save at all. So they just die.
And to add here, if your unit did not have spears, they could have used their hand weapons, which would have given them an extra save.
Actually,
Hand
in this
weapon-
case, I think
hand weapon and
you
shield
have
+1.
yeah, you always have a hand weapon.
Yeah, you do.
Even if you have a
but-
spear.
Yeah,
So
but
in
you
this
chose to use
instance-
your spears.
okay, but in this instance, I made a mistake. And since Jimmy, he's a gracious opponent, and
Yeah.
he knows that I'm a noob. So
I let
course,
you use them.
of course, you would have used the swords when you charge
Yeah.
because you won't get a spear bonus
Silly.
anyway.
Yeah, it's obvious.
And also, I will buy Jimmy a beer after the game because he's so nice. So I use my swords. So I still get a 6-up save because using a sword and a shield gives you 1+. So I roll my 2 dice, and one of them is a 6. One guy survives. So I have lost a guy. You have lost a guy. And yeah, that's when we check the combat resolution. Yeah, as I said, I lost a guy and you lost a guy, so that's +1 for both of us. I had 3 ranks with my elves, but now since a guy is gone from the last rank, I won't get a rank bonus.
I think
will I?
you always count the rank, the starting rank bonuses from a fight.
Okay. It's good we're doing this segment because apparently I don't know the rules very well.
I'm gonna check this up actually while you talk.
Okay, so I think in 6th edition you also need these 4 guys in a rank to count as a rank bonus. But let's say I do have I have like 2 ranks extra from the first rank. So I get 2 rank bonuses. The enemy only has 1 rank bonus. So that puts me in the lead with 1. I have a banner and he's got a banner. So that's +1 for both of us as well. But actually for this segment, let's say that I don't have a banner and then we're equal. So the combat is a draw. But I have a musician and he doesn't. So when it's a tie, but one side has a musician, and that side wins the combat. But that's the only time that it gives a bonus. It doesn't give +1 for your combat. Only when it's a draw, but one side has a musician. And if both sides have 1, they cancel each other out as well.
But remember, everyone, always get a musician. It helps you rally your troops.
Yes.
Oh, I found it here. You count you claim your rank bonus from the first start of the combat round, so you get your full ranks. This is
That's
very
good.
important.
That's good news for my Kislev as well. I didn't know this.
Yeah, really good.
So yeah, let's say the elves won this because they have a musician and more ranks. So the dwarves need to test a leadership, like do a leadership test. They have a base of leadership 8. Is there any dwarf with leadership 8, or do they all have 9 to start?
I think they have 8 normal dwarfs. Might be 9. Not sure.
Is Chris
Chris
still
should
here?
know.
I haven't got my books that close, but I think it's 8 and then 9 for upgrades, basically.
Yeah. I think I remember this, that they only had like leadership 8, 9, and 10. They didn't have anything lower than 8. So 8 for standard dwarves, 9 for thanes and stuff, and 10 for lords. Anyway, the dwarves have leadership 9. They lost by 1, so they're now down to leadership 8. 7. They have 8 first, so now they're down to 7. So they need to roll 2 dice and roll lower than or equal to 7.
Equal to or lower than 8.
7 in this case, since they lost by 1 and they had 8 to start with.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so let's say that they failed this leadership test. They rolled a 10, and now they have to flee. And
They are broken, so to say.
Yeah. The enemy may decide if they want to pursue or not. If they don't want to pursue and just stand where they are, they need to pass a leadership test, or else they're overtaken by their urge to kill the dwarvelings.
Yeah. And broken units or destroyed units within 6 inches of friendly units cause a panic test. So let's say I have another unit of dwarves beside these guys and they see their fellows flee. They need to take a panic test.
Yeah. And this is also true for like the shooting phase. If a unit next to you got demolished by a hellblaster, then you're probably gonna shit in your pants.
Unless they're slaves. You never flee from dead slaves.
Yeah. This is true for multiple factions.
Or if a goblin unit dies, orcs don't care.
Yeah. If a goblin unit dies, then chaos dwarfs don't care as well.
True.
So yeah, no one cares about slaves. That's it. So
yeah,
if you break from combat, you roll 2 dice, you just flee straight away from the enemy. And then the enemy gets to pursue, and he also rolls 2 dice. And if he rolls more than you, then he chases you down, and he moves his unit straight forward against you, where you should have been the distance that you rolled. I just want to say that if you're engaged 2 enemy units, let's say you have 1 to the front, 1 to the flank, then I think you flee from the strongest enemy unit, right?
Yeah, that's right.
The one with the most models.
Yeah. And on rare occasions, you pursue units off the table. And if you run over a table edge, the pursuers will come back on the following turn.
Is it your following turn or the following?
Well,
either way.
The owning unit's following turn.
Yeah. From that exact point, or
a unit that pursues its enemy off the table returns to the same point where it left in its next turn. It may not charge, but can otherwise move and fight as normal. Wizards can cast spells normally. The unit counts as having moved for the purposes of shooting.
Yeah. All right.
And you also get to redress ranks, as there is a thing in 6th edition that is lapping around. We'll get into that in some other segment, but basically you can put guys on the from your furthest rank, so to say. You can take these guys and lap them around on the enemy's flanks. It doesn't give you much bonuses other than extra attacks.
Yeah. So like when you win a combat, then you try to surround the enemy to get more attacks in. I just want to ask, like, do you lose rank bonuses for that?
Yeah,
or do they count as...
you do. You lose rank bonuses. So this is why it's good to be a Skaven player or a Night Goblin player, where you have multitudes of ranks. So you always lap around. Although goblins always lose more bodies when they lap around because they're weak.
But yeah, it's shorter than that. Like if you lap around, then you may lose rank bonuses. Does
Yeah.
it count like you're attacking the enemy from the flank if you do that?
It doesn't count as you're attacking from the flank. It just gives you more guys to attack with.
Yeah,
But
so the enemy still gets.
The enemy also gets to attack back with their guys
Yeah.
from the flanks, so to say.
Yeah, so it's a risky move.
Yeah, so never surround Chaos Warriors. Been there, done that. Never again.
Although, I was gonna say that those guys won't get their sword and board save, like their +1, because you're attacking from
Yeah.
the side, do they?
I think that's correct.
Well, yeah. As you see, you can do a lot of things. It's a
Yeah.
complicated system. Okay. Yeah, I think those are the. You have
These
like a whole
are
chart of plus.
These are like
pluses
the
to
top
get.
of the iceberg.
Yeah. I don't know, like how detailed we should go into combat. This is basically how you resolve each combat. Use the charger strikes first, the enemy strikes back, you count your casualties, you count your ranks. If you outnumber them, it's also a thing. Standards, rear attack, overkill, flank attack. If you stand on the high ground, you get bonuses. Then you just see who wins, and then take that result to the enemy's leadership. He needs to like take that off his leadership and roll equal to or under it, or you flee.
And if it's an already ongoing combat, you just strike in initiative order. And if both sides have the same initiative, you roll off to see who fights first.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because in other editions, I think you both strike at the same time, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And also you have the always strike last weapons.
Yeah, true. And some units have always strike first. But I also want to add, when you pursue, you can pursue into fresh enemies. And for all rules and purposes, this counts as a charge in the following combat phase.
Yeah.
Which is really nice if you have knights with lances.
Yes, because the lances are basically only good on the turn that you charge with.
Yeah.
Can also be useful when you have chariots.
Yeah, or weapons like Morning Stars or Flails, which have a strength bonus in the first round of combat.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting the charge is very important in this edition.
Yes, and knowing when to take the charge is also important. Always remember, guys, if you play Goblins or Skaven, flee when you can. You will never survive.
Yeah, but you'll probably never rally if you flee as well.
Oh yes, that's true. But there will be squigs and fanatics all over the place, so I don't need to. Or rattling guns. Always fun with rattling guns. They always explode.
Or Skaven that get blamed for sneakily messing things up just to make the leader look bad.
Yeah, let's say my storm vermin are always slaves in disguise. They suck. Well, I think we got everything here.
Yep. We should also mention here that there were quite a few FAQs and erratas released for 6th edition, and the easiest way to find most of them, I think there's some more that was only published on the website, the old GDub's website, but the easiest one to get hold of are in the annual from 2002 and the two Chronicles books that were released in 2003 and 2004.
Christopher said the erratas are in the annual book. Find them on various Russian homepages. Back in the day when they had to put like books to fix like, how does this rule actually work? Well, yeah.
Well, they did have them on the website for download as well, but that website disappeared sometimes in 2006. So it's quite hard to find, even if you want to look at some internet archives.
So yeah, it's pretty much combat. Just want to say that resolving the combats are pretty easy. Knowing what, as Jimmy said, like knowing when to take a combat and knowing when to charge. That's what makes the game very complicated.
Yeah. So if you play Chaos and you have Khorne Chosen, always charge and always take the charge. You will always survive and you will always kill.
And remember that corn cares not from whence the blood flows.
This is also
Exactly.
true. So you're always a winner when you play corn.
Even if you lose.
Yay! Blood for the blood god!
I'm sorry. But this is our basics for the 6th edition. We are going to do some more of these with more of focus that we mentioned. But I hope this has served as at least some kind of entry point if you want to play 6th edition.
These are like the basic stuff. The 3 other phases of the game. And just how to do those. But then, of course, they're kind of complicated when you actually start doing them. But if you want to have like 2 units and just try this out, just try how it works. That's a very good idea. Like the games that I played were just 500 points, 4 units in total.
Speaking of which, I'm going to splice this in, our little discussion about that right here, and we'll next see you when we talk a bit about shoutouts and outro stuff.
So now, should we go into some game experiences from 6th edition?
Yeah, we could. Given that you have you had more than the 2 games so far?
No, 2 games.
But then we maybe should talk about those 2 games and what you felt when playing, and what if it was. Well, let's just talk about your experience about them.
Yeah. So I went to this club, Hate in London, and played against Henry Steele. He is gonna start playing Chaos Warriors, and I have my Kislev, so really nice matchup to start with. And we said that we're gonna start playing like 500-point games just to get a feel for the mechanics.
Do you have the armor list for both of you in your head?
Yes, so I had a 7-man Griffin Legion unit, the one that I painted, and 2 5-man horse archers, and a hero on horse. And he had like barding and great weapon and a rifle. And Henry was playing Chaos, and like at first I kind of expected him to just go all knights, which would have been pretty hard for me, I think, because they're super heavily armored and they have like initiative 5, weapon skill 5, strength 5, I think. There's madness. They're really tough. But then he ended up with having 4 or 5 knights and 2 units of I think 2 units of Marauder Horsemen and a hero on Chariot. So it was horse armies on horse army.
That must have looked really good on the table. Just one thing. Did you have any like preferred enemy unpainted?
Not for its first. We said that like we would allow each other to play, like if you bring an unpainted unit and play with, and you're allowed to play with that unit unpainted once, but then the next time you bring it has to be painted.
That's actually quite a good way to do it, because then you can still play and have an incentive to actually get stuff painted.
Yeah, and like we're all about having our stuff painted to just have. We're more like having thematic battles than to show off our mad skills of the mechanics. And yeah, the team is really cool. Like that we both have mounted armies just riding around in the north, trying to outmaneuver the other one. So like when we got to the club, we set up a table when we found this snow mat, which is perfect. But I noticed that like fantasy has been out of the loop for a while now. So back in the day, there would be like every club would have a lot of like generic fantasy terrain. And you had just like trees and stuff like that. But now it's like being replaced more and more because like everyone wants city fight terrain now for both 40k and Horus Heresy. So it's not like as easy to find green fields and trees anymore, I would say. But we managed to set up because you don't need a lot of terrain for fantasy. Just the terrain is more scenic than something that you would actually fight in, because you always avoid terrain in fantasy. You never want to fight in a forest or something like that.
Especially not with cavalry.
Yeah, especially not with cavalry. But we had like a winter, like an old shrine or something, so that worked fine. So we played 2 games, set up. My plan was to like bait his stuff with my horse archers and then ride around the flank with my lancers, my Griffin Legion. So I rode up with my horse archer, shot some arrows. They did nothing, and then he declared a charge. And the first charge that we ever had, I declared a flee reaction. So Andrew said, like, okay, this is the game we're gonna be playing.
So there's cat and mouse at that time. Basically,
Yeah.
you just have to chase him down, or chase you down in this case.
There won't be any manly showdowns. It's gonna be like Flea and Harry. So I fled away.
You don't want to get into close combat with certain KS units. That's just how it is.
Yeah. Well, those are Marauder Horsemen, though, so they're pretty tame. But
so basically the same thing.
yeah, but I decided to flee. Fled. He didn't catch up, and then the next turn I charged in that unit with my hero. Thought that he could do some wonders. Turned out he couldn't really. So he actually got killed by those marauders, and he was gonna charge my second unit of horse archers with his chariot, and I declared another flee reaction, but I rolled a 4 on 3 dice, so he still caught on to them and just destroyed them. So it's like a really bad result from the first successful flee and then a failed flee, which left just my Griffin Legion that heroically charged in, killed a knight unit, I think, actually, maybe a Marauder Horseman unit, and then they just succumbed under the weight of chaos. So it's like some bad flee results in the beginning, and then I got ground down. And yeah, the game was pretty quick because it was just 500 points. So and it was like, oh, should we play another one? Like, yeah, sure, of course, let's play another one. And this time, Henry started. He went up the field with his knights to try and lure me in, so he could then charge with his chariot. I charged in on those knights with my Griffin Legion and my Boyar, my hero, and I squashed the knights, or I didn't squash him, but I won the combat, and he fled, and I chased him down. So the next turn I was standing right next to his chariot, and he couldn't really do anything. So like after the first combat, after a failed bait from him, the game was pretty much over. It's like, all right, game over. Good game. Let's have a beer.
How did you feel the game went in that case? Did it go like a decent way to play, or was it just...
Yeah, it's very different from newer editions, both of Fantasy and like 40k and Horse Heresy, that they're pretty forgiving when you do mistakes, and you can kind of correct your mistakes by moving pretty much anywhere. Stuff is pretty resilient, while in Fantasy, it's, Jimmy says this a lot as well, like it's all about movement. If you fuck up movement, then it doesn't really matter like what happens in the combat phase, because if you allow yourself to be charged in a bad situation, then that's pretty much going to swing the game. Yeah, you can take risks like Henry did. If he would have held that charge, then he could have charged him with his chariot, and then you would probably have ground me down. So it's all about movement. That's why I said this is like chess. 6th edition is pretty much like chess. Like,
it's probably a tactic that could have worked easier if it was a larger battle as well.
Yeah, this is also just 500 points. So
you don't really have the resources to spare to try to counterattack him in that case.
Yeah. So this is not the optimal size for the game. I think like 1,500 points works really well for 6th edition.
Yeah, it's quick enough, if nothing else.
Yeah, but 500 points was still fun. Like, don't get me wrong on that, and it was still playable, because other games like Horse Heresy as well doesn't really feel fulfilling at 500 points. Later editions of Fantasy, like 8th edition, I don't really think it works at 500 points. But in 6th edition, you can have smaller units, and it's more about
500 points just a hero or a lord in 8th edition.
Yeah, and you have like a lot bigger blocks. That's the thing, like 8th edition is better suited for big battles, in my opinion, and 6th edition does work with these smaller battles. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it was fun. I actually talked to Henry when I met him at the Randian Hobby Camp.
Yeah.
And he even admitted that he actually lost and won a game. So I think your story checks out.
Yeah.
He also said that he had a good time, so we might have to talk to him about it if you guys start playing more.
Yeah. We are gonna play some more. I don't know if we're gonna play 500 or 1,000 points. We'll see about that. I am looking forward to that. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Really excited about playing bigger games as well. Just to have even more maneuverability.
Might just do a bit of a spoiler here and say that there sooner rather than later, more of the podcast will have some battles going for at least for a Saturday. So
Yeah, you guys are planning to play in Sweden, right?
yeah, I guess you were invited, but you decided to go on holiday instead
Yeah.
and live abroad.
So yeah, the first opinion of the game, it's very like you stand and rub your chin a lot during the movement phase. That's my opinion of 6th edition. Like you're like, should I place it there or should I do something else? Like you're in constant like agony over what you should do with your army, like where you should place all your units. It's never just, yeah, of course I'm gonna go forward and just shoot, or of course I'm just gonna go forward and charge. You're always needs to think like a couple of turns ahead and think like how the enemy is gonna place his units and try and always get the charge.
Yeah, and then you stand in the enemy movement phase and just think, oh, I hope I don't gonna move there. I hope he moves over there. And
Yeah.
Oh, he just ruined my entire plan. Now the game might fold, but I have to compensate.
Yeah, and also because your units are so locked, you can't really just go anywhere with them.
Yeah, this is true. That's the inverted commas or whatever downside of rank and files. Even in Heresy, where you move units, you can move them in a totally different way because they have to be in a totally different cohesion to each other.
Yeah, at least they have lots and lots of light cavalry, which are like the exception to the rank and file system. They can go anywhere.
Yeah, and then you don't have any skirmish units in Kislev either.
No,
Do
I don't.
you? They are also quite a lot more flexible in how they move.
Yeah. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Looking forward to playing more games.
Well, that's good. The first experience didn't just scare you off.
Yeah, I'm too far in now. Like even if it would have been a shit game, I would have too much Kislev stuff to admit it.
I love this game. I really do. Yeah, but that sounds good. It sounds promising that there will be more games in the future as well.
Yeah. So keep an eye on Instagram as well to see some battle reports. I couldn't really take battle report picture of this because there was just too much unpainted. Both me and Henry were just too ashamed of it.
You mean that Henry didn't let you?
Yeah, I mean I could have, but then I don't think I would have another game.
Or left alive?
Yeah.
So let's go on to the end of this episode, and we're gonna start with a long list of shoutouts that Niklas got prepared for us.
Yes. Let me scroll through this chat because someone posted a bunch of pictures of a Shadow Man, Shadow Wizard.
It's important. You need the Shadow Man.
So yeah, I just want to start by saying that it's been great with all the interactions we got from the community in the last few weeks, because now we put out 4.5 episodes, and people started writing to us and asking us questions, which is awesome. It's great to talk to people and see that people really like burn for fantasy stuff. So it's been great seeing this, and especially like our big project now is doing 6th edition stuff, and people are still keen on doing 6th edition, which is amazing. And yeah, told you about this 6th edition's event that I'm going to, which I'm really looking forward to. Is talking to those guys about ideas is awesome.
Is that event fully booked yet, or are still tickets available?
It is fully booked. It's got 20 spots, and now I think there are 2 guys on the reserve list.
That's really nice. That's
Yeah,
really nice.
really nice to hear.
Yeah, that event is planned for like 2nd of March, I think. So still way off in the future. So maybe like the people want it so much that we'll do like a small one before that. Like I definitely want to get playing some 6th edition before that. Maybe not like an official event, but I'm really keen to play. And it seems to be people here in England that want to play 6th edition, so that's awesome. Speaking of like community, it's active. There are a bunch of Facebook pages where you can talk fantasy if you're interested in it. So I joined like 2 fantasy pages. There was this Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition page and Warhammer Fantasy 6th edition page. The 8th edition page just relabeled themselves as just a general fantasy page. So yeah, I think that's really nice. Just like whatever fantasy floats your boat, just go in and talk about this awesome game and especially this awesome setting. And yeah, it's a very active page. People keep writing there. And 6th edition page as well. I know, Jimmy, I think you post the battle report in both of those pages, or the 6th edition page?
I think I posted them in both of them.
Yeah. So it's a great page for just sharing pictures, sharing your progress, or if you played any battles, just post it up there and get people talking. It's awesome.
And I'm gonna talk about the group Middle Hammer. Middle Hammer is a bit like Old Hammer, but newer. Therefore, they are some that some call them New Old Hammer. So it's basically everything from 1988 to 2016, but mostly Middle Hammer is like 5th to 8th edition. And it's not only the rules; it's mostly about the models, but they also play those older editions and post things up there. It's a really great group.
Yeah. And then there's also the Old Hammer group. Instead, the Middle Hammer is like Old Hammer but newer.
Yeah.
And Old Hammer is like
mostly 3rd edition.
Yeah. Like the real classics.
Yeah. Really gorgeous models. If you
Yes.
like older models, so to say.
Other than that, there are like a bunch of pages on Facebook for different factions in fantasy. I'm in this Kislev page, which is great to get like focus inspiration on this one faction. And also the trading groups. Both Old Hammer and Middle Hammer have their own trading groups as well, which they're just great. I mean, they're great to browse in, and they're awful for my wallet, but they're amazing. You can find a lot of cool stuff in there.
And as usual, I'm gonna make some shout out for Mordheim. There's a Mordheim group called just Mordheim, and well, it's basically everything Mordheim. And then we have Mordheim Merchant Wagon, where you can trade and buy things Mordheim.
Yeah, like Facebook is so great because you can just search for everything on this thing. But I know
Yeah.
that there are a lot of people still using forums as well, like OG forums. Like I was always on a forum back in the days when I was playing, but they get kind of local, and then you have like your users, and then you talk to each other. But it's kind of hard to find new players in that. I think Facebook is really great for just easily accessible for everyone.
Yeah.
And it's
So-
easy to post pictures. That's like also one of the biggest things about Facebook. You don't have to have like a web hosting thing to link your pictures, and then they start charging you money to be able to link your pictures. So Facebook is really it's just easy to use.
Yeah, it is. And also, if anyone out there have a Warhammer Fantasy blog, please let us know. We would love to see it, and we would love to talk about it.
Yeah,
And speaking of which, we would also love to talk to you that listen to this, because we want to know what you think of this. For one, we want to know what you think about the podcast, but we also want to know about your hobby and what you're doing.
Yeah.
yeah. Post pictures on our Facebook
Send us
page.
messages, spam us, visit our Instagram, and well, do things.
Yeah. Just follow our Instagram, and we'll definitely follow you back if you're into fantasy. I noticed this like when we started the Instagram, I kind of search for just like hashtag Warhammer Fantasy, stuff like that. It's kind of hard to like go through it all, and then you go to this profile and then see, oh yeah, they post like one fantasy thing, but they're mostly like into some other game. But now I think we got like a following on Instagram. We got a bunch more followers than in the beginning, and then we started following blogs back.
I just checked, and we actually have 115 followers. So at least,
it's crazy.
And about 70 of them are probably bots, but that's the usual stats, I think. But it's still nice. We're trying to post updates at least a few times a week. We're aiming to do it more often, but sometimes it just, well, we need to have something to post as well, I think.
Yeah. Expect another report from me. Maybe some more detail next time.
Awesome.
There might also be a rat ogre coming up sometime in the middle of this week.
And like if you're thinking like, oh shit, Instagram, like do I really need to get this thing? Like I have Facebook, do I really need another thing? Like Instagram is all pictures. It's very simple, and it's just pictures of stuff that you like. You only get stuff that you follow in your feed, and you like if you only follow great hobby stuff, then that's the only thing you're gonna get.
Yeah.
And ads.
Yes, sometimes ads, but mostly hobby stuff.
And just if you are only on Facebook and not on Instagram, we do dual post everything we post on Instagram on our Facebook feed.
Yes.
So speaking of someone that's not really into Instagram, how about doing a shout out to your colleague, Niklas?
Yeah, so as some of you might know, I'm also doing a Horse Heresy podcast with a friend of mine called Morten. Hello, Morten. Shouting out to you. Miss you. We got to do another Horse Heresy episode like this week. It's his birthday today. So happy birthday. Grattis. Stolat. I don't know any more languages.
Happy Spore Day.
What is that?
Happy Spore Day. The day we're spored like orcs. Happy Spore Day.
Happy Sport Day, Morten.
Or in Skaven, Happy Spawn Day.
So I hope this is
squeak,
like the
squeak,
fifth.
squeak.
I hope this is the 5th episode that you're listening to, Morten. That you're getting really hyped for fantasy, and we have this grand scheme of making you play Dogs of War, because it would be perfect for Tilia and Estalia and all those southern mercenary assholes.
You know that they are not only regiments of renown, right? You know that they also got a list of their own, right?
Yeah, I barely knew this. Like, you can get pretty much any guys you want and team them around like a mercenary army, get crazy teams going. These hardened like Giovanni Mozzarelli,
Cristoffi.
Chilean mercenaries.
Or you might have a mercenary company that operates in the Border Princes, or one of those that operates within the Empire. Just pick your flavor, basically.
Yes.
Yeah, there's countless of models to use. If you don't want to use the old classic lovely pewter models.
Yeah, and even like I just want to say, even if you want to use the old Tudor models, you can go even further back. That's what I love about the Old Armor Trading Group as well. You can find models that you've barely ever seen. Like, oh, but yeah, these are actually fantasy models, and use them for newer stuff. Like I did with my Chaos Dwarfs. I just went on and found this like really old Chaos Dwarf character that just fits perfectly with the new range because he still looks freaking menacing.
And it's the size of a Nurgling.
Well, let's not get onto that. Should never
Yes,
call it
let's
Dwarf
get
Sword.
on to that.
So yeah, just, you can create whatever you want with the Dogs of War army, pretty much. Other shout outs? Yeah, I just want to shout out like if you like reading battle reports or watching battle reports, Mini War Gaming does a lot of battle reports for fantasy still. They have
Well,
a lot
they
of
have them still. I think they're going to refocus. I say that on the Facebook page at least.
yeah. I don't know.
They were at least rebasing their fantasy armies to
That's lame.
round bases, but
Well, they do have 8th edition battle reports, and they also have 6th edition battle reports, which I really enjoy.
And they even have a Warhammer Skirmish battle report.
indeed.
Isn't that Guerrilla War Gaming?
I don't think so. I'm gonna check it out.
That's the only one I found. Maybe they do, because Mini War Gaming have a lot of battle reports. I watched some of their other battle reports for other games. I was not super keen about them, but their fantasy battle reports I really enjoyed actually. And also, I just like watching fantasy battle reports is I like it more than watching other games because it's like orderly, it looks nice, you can really follow along easily what's going on. It's a really good system for battle reports.
Niklas, you were right. It was Guerrilla Miniature Games that made the Skirmish battle report.
Yeah, I've been scouring the YouTubes for battle reports.
How about we link some of these in on our Facebook page and talk about what we're going to do for the next episode?
Yeah. So you got like a pre-taste of our next episode. We're going to talk about army lists, and this is what I talked about in our bonus episode because people couldn't record that, and so we just recorded my section, but then we just put it out in the meantime while doing this episode, pretty much.
Yeah, as we said, we had part of the podcast been on vacation, part of the podcast has been suffering plague, and part of the podcast don't really know how to use internet.
Yeah.
Let's not go into that. For our next episode, we're going to continue with that army list team because it's going to be somewhat of an expansion of this episode where we go into the army lists, how you construct an army list for 6th edition, and we're going to give some sample army lists that we have been working on, including our thoughts when we talked about them, just as we did with Niklas. Just talk about a bit about the theme and what the feel of the army that we wanted.
Yeah, I was gonna like say a comment about that, but we're gonna talk all about it in the next episode, so it would be a shame to start spoiling it now.
Yeah. So it's gonna say this. See you in the next episode and take care for now.
Stay square.
Bye bye.
Time have ended, and the realm of elf, dwarf, and man shattered. But in our hearts, the old world liveth.